Are you preparing for UGC NET English and feeling lost in the sea of British literature? If yes, then you're not alone. Every year I hear so many students saying me things like, the syllabus of British literature is so huge, I don't know where to begin from. Then there will be students who will be asking that, ma'am, should I read all the works of all the writers, or should I just know the names of the important works and that will be enough? Recently, I remember I was talking to a student who told me how he spent weeks reading novels page by page, only to realize that he has finished just 5% of the syllabus of British literature. Then there was another student who told me how he jumped from one history of English literature book to another, and he never stood by a plan and ended up feeling so overwhelmed that he decided not to even sit for the exam. And because of all these questions that keep coming to me, I decided to make a video wherein I answer all the questions. The intention behind this video is to take away all the confusion that you have in regards to British literature and replace it with clarity. So in this session, I'm going to quickly talk about 3 things. Number 1, the topic-wise in-depth syllabus of British literature so that you exactly know what to focus on. Number 2, I'm going to share a complete study plan using which you can cover British literature in minimum time. And number 3, I'm going to introduce you to the best books and free resources that will simplify your preparation. So by the end of this video, I promise that you will have a complete and a clear strategy to tackle British literature with confidence and ease. So if you're ready to turn your preparation around, then let's begin. So before I talk about the detailed topic-wise syllabus of British literature, it's important to know the advantages and disadvantages of studying British literature from the perspective of UGC NET exam. So let's first quickly talk about the advantages. So the first advantage is that the writers that you study in British literature, you're already familiar with those writers because you've studied them in your bachelor's and master's. We all know Charles Dickens, T.S. Eliot, Thomas Hardy, Virginia Woolf, Jane Austen. So all these writers do not feel alien to you as compared to writers who are from Australia or post-colonial writers or sometimes even European writers. Okay, second important advantage of studying British literature is that it holds about 50 to 60% weightage in the UGC NET paper too. It is a most crucial section of the paper, and if you do not have mastery over British literature, then there is no scope that you can even clear NET. Forget JRF, you can never clear NET if you do not have command over British literature. Okay, now if we know that British literature is so important and it holds such a important weightage in the paper, why do students still struggle with British literature? So there are 2 major reasons that I'm going to discuss under this section of cons. So the first disadvantage or con is the length and depth of British literature, which is very scary. So we are going to look at the complete syllabus, but when you will see the syllabus, you will find out that there are about 500 writers that you have to cover in detail when it comes to British literature. And it is so huge that a student might feel overwhelmed after looking at such a huge list of writers and their works. Second disadvantage of British literature is that sometimes students find out that in spite of understanding these writers in detail, in spite of knowing these writers and their works in details, they are still unable to answer questions correctly in the exam hall. And that is what gives them a shock, because they have put in so much effort in understanding these writers, in covering their works, in knowing the summaries of the important work, and yet they are not able to answer questions correctly because somewhere they have misunderstood the exam pattern. They are focusing on things which are not relevant and they are missing out on things which are frequently asked in exam. And because a student does not know how to identify these, he kind of blames British literature for it. कि British literature से तो पता नहीं क्या ही सवाल आ जाते हैं. Okay, so now that we know the advantages and disadvantages of British literature, it's important and it's the right time that we look at the complete syllabus of British literature. Okay friends, so now when a student decides to begin his preparation for UGC NET, specifically British literature, he would first go to UGC NET website and try to look for UGC NET English syllabus. When he looks at the syllabus, he is in utter shock most of the time because the syllabus kind of summarizes the entire British literature, which is so huge, into 4 units: drama, poetry, fiction, non-fiction. The syllabus does not mention any subtopic or any any particular writer that they have to study under these headings. So the syllabus would not mention the major dramatists that a student must study or major poems that the student must study. And because of this, because of the indicative nature of the syllabus, the student feel lost and confused as to where to begin the preparation, what to study, what to leave. Friends, to be very honest, if you look at UGC NET English syllabus, it is so vast and so detailed that अगर आप 7 जन्म भी लगा लो ना तो भी शायद खत्म ना हो. So it is very important that at the first stage itself, you start defining the real syllabus. And what is the real syllabus of British literature? The real syllabus of British literature can only be found when you analyze the P by Qs. Now, what are these P by Qs? If I want to, explain in detail. P by Qs are previous year questions, and it is only by analyzing the last 10 years question papers of UGC NET you will understand that which are the writers which are frequently asked in NET exam. So it is only by looking and analyzing the P by Qs you are able to draw a list of writers that will define your syllabus, and that is the only strategy through which you can actually know the syllabus of British literature. So I've already done this entire humongous task wherein I looked at the past 10 years question papers and jotted down all the writers that have been asked from British literature and compiled them in a list. And you will be surprised to know that that list somewhere spans to 300 writers. So around 300 writers and British literature की जो हर बार UGC में पूछे जाते हैं. Now, once we have made this exhaustive list, you might feel overwhelmed and you might feel that कहाँ से start करें, or you might feel extremely afraid to begin such a big Herculean task. And the only simple way you can do this is by using the same technique that Britishers used to conquer India, and that was the divide and rule technique. You have to divide the humongous British literature syllabus into smaller actionable steps so that you can focus on one step at a time, and sooner you will be able to complete the entire syllabus. Okay, so what I have done is that I have divided the entire British literature syllabus into 12 ages, starting from Anglo-Saxon age all the way up to postmodern age. So I've done a chronological study. I have segregated the writers into different ages, further divided them into 4 categories: poets, novelists, dramatists, and essayists. And this exhaustive list is available free of cost on my website, arpitaparva.com. So anybody who is new to British literature, who does not know where to begin from, can refer to this list and can start chronologically from Anglo-Saxon all the way up to the postmodern age. Okay, so now that we have made a writer-wise list of all the important topics that you should cover in British literature, it's time to understand how do you tackle British literature and what all things do you have to cover under this particular unit. So if you look at British literature, there are 3 essential components of it. Number 1 is the history of British literature. Second is detailed study of the authors. And number 3 is detailed study of the major works of the authors. Let's look at them one by one. Now, when it comes to looking at the history of British literature, this is one topic that most of the students would try and skip because they think that यहाँ से तो क्या ही questions आते हैं. But understand, friends, you cannot study any writer in isolation. If you remember the famous metaphysical poet John Donne, he said it very, very nicely that no man is an island, which means that no man can exist alone. Similarly, no writer can exist alone. Novels are nothing but reflection of the society. So only after knowing the political, social and economic background of the age, you can understand the writer as well as his works in the proper sense. Otherwise, you might study the writer in isolation and you will not be able to connect it to the age in which he was writing. So the first crucial step is to understand the history of British literature and how each and every age was nothing but a reflection of the people or the societal changes that was happening during that age. Now we come to the second important component, which is the detailed study of the authors. Now, I've already mentioned that there's a detailed list given on arpitaparva.com which will act as a blueprint for you. And this list gives you the detailed writers which you will have to study beginning from Anglo-Saxon period all the way up to the postmodern period. the ages are further divided into dramatists, poets, novelists, essays, so that you know that which writer belongs to which particular genre. Now, when it comes to the study of authors, there are two types of authors that you will encounter. One are the major writers and the other ones are the minor writers. Now, major writers are the writers which are extremely important for you to study because they define the entire age. For example, if we look at Romantic Age, you cannot understand Romantic Age without understanding Wordsworth and Coleridge. Similarly, you cannot understand Victorian Age without understanding Charles Dickens. So these are major writers because यहाँ से in-depth questions आते हैं. They are going to dig deeper into the writer, deeper into his works and then give you questions. Then are minor writers. Minor writers are the writers जहाँ से बहुत ही कम कभी कभार questions आते हैं, जैसे Henry Howard हुआ, John Gay. So all these are writers which are smaller writers जहाँ से बहुत surface level questions आते हैं. Now, you need to understand that for every age, you have to study both major writers as well as minor writers. But the approach will be different. For major writers, you will have to go deeper and study important details about their biography, about their works, about the minor essays that they have written. For example, a lot of people would just read E.M. Foster's Passage Through India and they think that they have completed the writer. But no, at times UGC Net would ask questions like, who was a follower of Vedanta? And the correct option was E.M. Foster. So even after reading Passage to India, you will not be able to answer questions like these. Similarly, you might have read Rime of Ancient Mariner, but the question that will come in UGC Net would be that Coleridge created a utopian society. What was the name of the society? And the correct answer is Pentasocracy. So you need to know these important details about the major writers. Then when it comes to minor writers, you should know what to skip. You do not need to know the birth and death date of these writers or childhood information about these writers. You just need to know the works that they have written and only the titles of those works. You don't have to even do in-depth study, the plot study of the work as well. So this is how you cover authors. Now we come to the third important portion, which is the works or the text that were written in that particular age, be it poems, be it dramas, or be it novels or essays, or any other important fictional work. Okay, so now when it comes to understanding and reading these works, you have to understand that you cannot read the text of these works because there will be more than 500 such works that you have to study only in British literature, and it is not possible to read 500 novels because UGC Net exam is something for which you have to do a lot of study in very limited time. So the best approach would be to only look at the summaries of these works. Okay. And even in summaries, you need to be wise enough to know what to study and what to skip. For example, Canterbury Tales is a very, very famous work which is frequently asked in net exam. In Canterbury Tales itself, there are 120 works, 120 stories. Now, out of these 120 stories, only 7 or 8 stories are important, which are asked in net exam. Apart from that, 110 stories are not even asked. So you can skip those stories. And that is where you need a mentor who can exactly tell you what to study and what to skip. If you would go to my online video course for UGC Net, you will see that I have given a detailed list of writers, and for each writer I have specifically mentioned the works जिनकी summaries हम आपको देते हैं in video format. So my entire online course is made in format of an animated video course, so that it becomes easier for you to understand the summaries of these works and it will be imprinted in your brain. So you don't have to memorize, because if you read textual summaries, all these characters will get mixed up. There are so many characters in different works. In British literature itself, you will be surprised to know that how many novels will have characters like Jane and Elizabeth. So what I have done, I have created storyboards, mind maps for all these novels and poems, so that looking at them visually, you can quickly grasp it and remember it for a longer period. And that is what I would even suggest you to do when you are studying on your own. If you're doing self-study, try not writing the summaries down, try making mind maps and short visuals through which you can remember the summary for a longer period of time. Okay, now that we have discussed in detail the syllabus of British literature and what are the major components that you should be covering in British literature, it's important to address the elephant in the room, which is the most important question: where do you study British literature from? Because with so many resources out there, it is so easy for a student today to get lost in the pool of resources. So I'm going to first talk about two important books that you can refer for British literature, and then I'm also going to talk about some free resources that you can study or refer to when it comes to British literature. So the first book is Routledge's History of English Literature. This book is great for understanding the historic background of British literature. However, it's not very helpful from UGC NET exam perspective because it does not give you all the essential facts that are repeatedly asked in NET exam. Neither it gives you all the writers and summaries of their works. So it will just help you to understand the historic background and how one age transitioned into the other. The second important book is William J. Long, History of English Literature. It provides an overview of all the writers and works that you will find in different ages. But again, this book is not written from UGC NET exam perspective. So it's good to have a quick read of this book. But then along with this book, you have to do in-depth study of all the writers and their works, because those are the areas from where questions will directly come from UGC NET exam. Now, before I move on to the online resources, it is important for me to also address some misconceptions about the most famous history of English literature book, that is David Deutsch's. Now, friends, David Deutsch's is a very, very important book which is said to be the Bible of English literature. It is a book that is written in two parts. So, two humongous volumes will be available. But honestly, I would not recommend a beginner to read this book because it is very, very detailed and overtly time consuming. And the worst part is that it is written from a very scholarly lens. So, the language is very typical for a beginner to understand. When I started preparing for NET, I tried reading David Deutsch's, but I could not understand it. So I switched to the other two books that I mentioned. Later, when I completed the entire syllabus, I was in a much better position to understand David Deutsch's. So I would not recommend a beginner to, go through that book. Okay. Now that we have discussed the book, it's time to look at the online sources. Now, for each of the three components of British literature that we discussed in this video, history of English literature, authors and works, I'm going to suggest one resource each. So for history of English literature, I would highly recommend watching YouTube videos of different YouTubers. So there are so many people who are working in the field of English literature these days, and all of them have a separate playlist where they tackle lectures of different ages of English literature. So it's a kind of a playlist that they have on their channel. You can refer to these playlists because these videos will give you a very quick and easy to follow way to navigate through the history of English literature without spending so much time flipping through the pages. They will give you some important historical background and then major writers and the works that you should study for that particular age. Now moving on to the second component, which is authors. Now for authors, Wikipedia is surprisingly useful because it's a great way to look at quick facts and basic information about the writer. But remember, you have to always cross-check the details that are mentioned on the Wikipedia page with the previous year paper data to know whether that kind of data or that kind of information is asked in NET exam, because Wikipedia at times give you a lot of information which is not relevant from exam point of view. So you have to be very choosy in terms of what information should go in your notes and what should go in your head. You don't have to mug up the entire Wikipedia page. Also, towards the end of a Wikipedia page of the author, you will find a chronological list of the works. That section is also very important, so don't forget to check that out for each of the writers. Now we move on to the last section, that is the works or the important text that you have to read for each age or for each writer. For that, I think YouTube again is a very good source because if you go and type Pride and Prejudice summary, you will find so many summaries on YouTube. You can watch any of these summary videos which will help you understand the plot in a very quick manner. Also, you can watch movies based on these works. That's an alternative way of understanding literature, and that also is imprinted in your brain. On my channel as well, you will find there is a playlist that I've made where I've summarized the most important works, and these videos that I've put there are from my online course wherein I summarize all these novels, plays, and poems in animated manner. So you can watch a few videos that are there on my YouTube channel as well. It will help you understand the plot and remember it for a longer period since it has a lot of animated characters. Alternatively, somebody who is not so not so comfortable with YouTube, you can also go to websites like SparkNotes, LitCharts, GradeSaver that give textual summaries. So the summaries are in text format, so you can read those summaries and then prepare short mind maps or diagrams, summarizing it in your own words. So with that note, I come to the end of this lecture. I hope that this lecture was helpful. I'll meet you very soon in the next video lecture. Till the time we meet next, happy learning, keep loving literature, and stay tuned to arpitakarwa.com.